The city hummed with life as Alina navigated the bustling streets, her mind racing with anticipation and dread. The neon lights flickered above her, casting a vibrant glow on the pavement, while the chatter of passers-by filled the air. But all she could think about was the meeting that lay ahead. It was not just another appointment. It felt as if she was about to step into a different world, a world she had only heard about in hushed tones and whispered stories. What happens when a man crosses the line in that dangerous world? She couldn't help but wonder. Before the story unfolds, one quiet request. We're nearing 1,000 subscribers. If you believe in stories of tension and love, subscribe and stay. Now, back to our tale. Alina was a regular woman leading a rather ordinary life. She worked as a marketing assistant at a modest firm, her days filled with mundane tasks and the occasional water cooler gossip. But tonight, something felt different. Tonight, she was headed to a high-stakes meeting that could change everything. Her heart raced, not just from the thrill of the unknown, but from the weight of the danger that lingered in the air. She had heard tales of the Bratva, the infamous Russian Mafia, and their ruthless ties that connected power to fear. As she walked, the images of men in tailored suits and women with piercing gazes flashed through her mind. The upscale restaurant she approached stood like a fortress among the ordinary buildings surrounding it. Its facade glimmered with golden accents and large glass windows, allowing glimpses of the opulent interior filled with elegantly dressed patrons. She hesitated at the entrance, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. What was she doing here? She took a deep breath, brushing her fingers against her sleek dress, a simple black number that made her feel both elegant and out of place. As she stepped inside, the warm ambience enveloped her, contrasting sharply with the chill of the night air. The sounds of clinking glasses and soft laughter danced around her. She scanned the room, searching for her friend, Sophia, who had promised to meet her here. Instead of feeling comforted by the luxury surrounding her, she felt small and vulnerable, a mere speck in a world that thrived on power and dominance. Minutes dragged on as Alina waited, the tension in her chest building. She could overhear snippets of conversations, and one caught her attention, a group of men discussing a recent incident involving the Bratva. They spoke of a rival gang and the escalating violence that had shaken the city. Alina's curiosity piqued, and she leaned in, trying to catch more of their words, but their hushed tones faded into the background as her thoughts wandered. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The restaurant door swung open, and a wave of palpable energy swept through the room. In walked a man whose presence commanded attention. Viktor Petrov, the notorious Bratva boss. He was tall, strikingly handsome, with dark hair slicked back and a well-tailored suit that accentuated his broad shoulders. Alina's breath caught in her throat as their eyes met. For a brief moment, time stood still. She felt an inexplicable pull towards him, a magnetic chemistry that sent shivers down her spine. He moved through the crowd like a predator, each step calculated and confident. Alina couldn't shake the sense of danger that clung to him, but beneath that, there was an allure that drew her in. She watched as he interacted with the other patrons, his voice smooth and authoritative, but never raising above a whisper. It was as if he commanded respect without the need for intimidation. Alina's heart raced, not just from fear, but from an unexpected excitement. As Victor took his seat at a nearby table, she shifted in her chair, trying to steal another glance at him without being too obvious. Just then, Sophia arrived, her enthusiastic greeting pulling Alina back to reality. However, she couldn't help but steal another look at Victor. The chemistry that sparked between them was undeniable, and she felt the weight of the moment settle heavily upon her. "Wow, Alina, you look stunning," Sophia exclaimed, pulling her into a hug. "I can't believe we're finally here. You're going to love this place." Alina managed a smile, though her mind was still half-focused on Victor. "Thanks, Sophia." "This place is incredible." Sophia glanced around, her excitement palpable. "Look at all these people. This is where the city's elite come to play, and who knows? Maybe we'll even meet someone interesting tonight." Alina chuckled nervously, her gaze drifting back to Victor. There was no denying he was interesting, but he was also a dangerous man, a figure who could easily shatter the fragile life she had built. Yet the thrill of the unknown called to her. What would it be like to step into his world? The thought both terrified and exhilarated her. As they settled into their seats, Sophia engaged in lively chatter about work and social life, but Alina's attention was split between her friend and the man who seemed to be the center of gravity in the room. The air was thick with tension, and she could sense the energy around Victor, a mix of power and danger that seemed to envelop him like a cloak. Alina felt a flutter of excitement as she realized she was witnessing something extraordinary. She was on the cusp of a world that few ever saw, and somehow it felt both thrilling and terrifying. As the evening wore on, she couldn't shake the feeling that fate was leading her toward an encounter that could change everything. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling narratives. The night had only just begun, and Alina's life was about to take a turn she never expected. Alina glanced around the upscale restaurant, her heart fluttering with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The lavish decor, with its crystal chandeliers and polished marble floors, felt like a world away from her mundane life. This place buzzed with energy, and as she sat at a small table waiting for Sophia, her mind couldn't help but race with thoughts of what lay ahead. What was she doing here? The ambience screamed luxury, but she felt like an intruder in a realm of power and wealth. She fiddled with her phone, scrolling through messages, her eyes occasionally darting back to the entrance, hoping to catch sight of her friend. Just then, she overheard a conversation from a nearby table. A group of well-dressed men spoke in hushed tones, their serious expressions contrasting sharply with the light-hearted chatter around them. "Have you heard about the Bratva's latest move?" one of them said, his voice low and conspiratorial. Another nodded, leaning closer, as if sharing a secret that could change everything. "They are ruthless. No one crosses them without consequences." Alina's ears perked up at the mention of the Bratva. She had heard whispers about the notorious crime organization, but never had she imagined that she would be sitting in a place where such discussions took place. Her curiosity was piqued, and she leaned in slightly, trying to catch more of the conversation. The gravity of their words sent a shiver down her spine, but at the same time, a thrill ran through her. She had always been drawn to stories of danger and intrigue, but this was different. This was real. Moments later, the door swung open, and a rush of cold air swept through the restaurant, causing her to shiver. All heads turned as a figure entered, undeniably commanding the room's attention. Viktor Petrov, the infamous Bratva boss, walked in with an air of confidence that was impossible to ignore. He was tall, strikingly handsome, with dark hair slicked back and a perfectly tailored suit that emphasized his strong physique. Alina's breath hitched as their eyes met, a jolt of electricity passing between them. For a fleeting moment, it seemed as though the noise of the restaurant faded away, and all she could focus on was him. Victor moved through the crowd like a predator surveying his territory. There was something magnetic in his presence, an unspoken power that drew her in. She felt an odd sense of danger mixed with intrigue, a concoction that was both terrifying and exhilarating. Alina couldn't help but notice the way people reacted to him, their respect palpable. It was a reminder of how far removed her life was from this world of power and dominance. "Alina." "You made it," came a cheerful voice that broke her reverie. She turned to see Sophia, her friend, entering with an infectious smile that lit up her face. "I was worried you wouldn't find the place." Alina managed a smile, though her thoughts were still tangled around Victor. "Thanks, Sophia. The place is stunning." Sophia joined her at the table, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "This is where the city's elite come to play. You're going to love it." Her enthusiasm was infectious, but Alina's gaze strayed back to Victor, who was now seated at a nearby table. She could feel a magnetic pull towards him, a curiosity that was impossible to ignore. What could it be like, she wondered, to step into his world, to experience the thrill of living on the edge? As they settled into their seats, Sophia launched into animated chatter about their work and upcoming events, but Alina found herself lost in thought. The tension in the air was thick, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to happen. There was a chemistry building inside her, an inexplicable attraction that made her heart race. Every glance she cast towards Victor felt charged with possibility, and yet a voice in her mind warned her of the danger. "Did you see that guy?" Sophia suddenly said, shaking Alina from her daydream. He's definitely a big deal. Look at the way everyone reacts to him. Alina nodded absent-mindedly, her mind still drawn to Victor. Yeah, I noticed, she replied, though the words felt weak compared to the storm brewing inside her. The conversation flowed around her, but she felt an invisible thread connecting her to him, a pull she couldn't quite understand. Sophia continued to chat, but Alina's focus remained on Victor, who was now speaking to a group of men at his table. There was something in the way he conducted himself, charismatic, yet cold. He commanded respect with every word, every gesture. She wondered what lay beneath that polished exterior. Did he have a heart? Did he feel the weight of the world he carried? As the evening wore on, a sense of excitement mixed with dread settled in the pit of her stomach. She was on the brink of something significant, and despite the fear gnawing at her, she couldn't help but be drawn to it. If you're enjoying this story, give us a like to support the channel. The thrill of the unknown lingered in the air, and Alina felt a stirring within her, a yearning for something beyond her ordinary life. It was a mix of fear and attraction, and she knew deep down that she was about to embark on a journey that would change everything. The atmosphere in the upscale restaurant shifted as the evening wore on. Alina found herself seated across from Victor, his piercing gaze never leaving her as they engaged in conversation. At first, their exchange was light, filled with the kind of small talk that often fills the air between strangers finding common ground. Yet beneath the surface, an undeniable tension crackled, promising more than just casual banter. "What brings you to a place like this?" Victor asked, a hint of curiosity igniting in his deep voice. His presence was magnetic, and Alina felt both intimidated and intrigued. She hesitated for a moment, unsure how to articulate her life, her dreams, her very essence in a way that could capture someone of his caliber. "I'm just here with a friend," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "We work in marketing, and she thought it would be fun to check out the city's elite dining scene. Honestly, I didn't expect to feel so." "Out of place," Victor chuckled softly, the sound deep and resonant. "Everyone feels out of place at some point. It's the ones who embrace it that find their footing." His eyes glinted with a mix of amusement and something deeper, an understanding that sent a thrill down her spine. As they spoke, Alina became acutely aware of the world around them. The restaurant buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the aroma of gourmet dishes wafting through the air. Yet within that lively setting, a strange intimacy formed between her and Victor. He leaned in slightly, his attention unwavering, as if she were the only person in the room. "What do you do in marketing?" he asked, genuinely interested. Alina found herself opening up more than she initially planned. "I focus mostly on digital strategies. It's fascinating how a small campaign can reach millions. I love the creativity it allows," she said, her passion igniting her tone. Victor nodded, and for a moment, the weight of his powerful reputation faded, revealing a man who was just as passionate about his own world. "I can appreciate the importance of reaching people. In my line of work, perception is everything." His statement hung in the air, adding layers to the enigmatic persona he presented. What exactly did he mean by that? The question lingered in her mind, tantalizingly just out of reach. Their conversation shifted seamlessly from light topics to deeper discussions about ambition and dreams. Victor shared snippets of his life, hinting at the challenges he faced in his position as a Mafia boss, but he did so with a charm that made the dark reality feel almost romantic. Alina was captivated, her heart racing as he spoke of loyalty, power, and the sacrifices required to maintain them. It was a dangerous dance, teetering on the edge of allure and risk. "I have to admit," she said, her voice low, "I've always been drawn to stories about people like you. It seems exhilarating and terrifying at the same time." His gaze intensified, searching her face as if probing for her true intentions. "It can be both," he admitted, a hint of vulnerability in his tone. "But it's not all thrills. There's a burden that comes with this life." In that moment of shared honesty, the chemistry between them crackled more vividly. Alina could feel the walls around his heart beginning to tremble, and despite her better judgment, she leaned in closer to him. "I can only imagine the weight of it all," she murmured, feeling an unexplainable urge to reach out, to understand him more deeply. Victor's expression softened for a brief moment, but just as quickly, he masked it with an unyielding facade. She could see the struggle in his eyes, a battle between the allure of opening up and the instinct to protect himself. The tension in the air thickened, and Alina's heart pounded as if sensing the shifting dynamics between them. As their meal progressed, a sudden ripple of energy coursed through the restaurant. Alina felt it before she saw it, a group of men entering, their demeanor radiating hostility. One of them, with a jagged scar running down his cheek, made his way over to Victor's table, drawing the attention of several diners. Alina's breath caught in her throat, and she instinctively moved closer to Victor, as if he were a shield against whatever storm was approaching. The man stopped in front of Victor, his voice low and menacing. "We need to talk, Petrov, now." The tension was palpable, and Alina could sense the shift in Victor's mood. His eyes darkened, and the warmth they held for her moments ago vanished, replaced by a chill that made the hairs on her arms stand on end. Victor's demeanor changed instantly. He straightened in his chair, a commanding presence emerging. "You shouldn't be here," he replied, his voice steady but laced with an underlying threat. The casual atmosphere of the restaurant evaporated, replaced by a charged silence as patrons glanced nervously at the unfolding situation. Alina's heart raced, torn between fear and an intoxicating attraction to Victor's confidence in the face of danger. She wanted to reach out, to tell him to be careful, but the words stuck in her throat. What did it mean to be involved in his world? She was stepping into a reality that was far darker than she could have ever imagined. Victor's gaze flickered to Alina for just a moment, a silent communication passing between them, a warning, perhaps, or a plea for her to stay out of this. The moment felt electric, leaving her breathless. What was she getting herself into? As the tension escalated between Victor and the intruder, Alina felt a sense of inevitability wash over her. She had crossed a line, and there was no turning back now. If you're enjoying this story, give us a like to support the channel. She had a choice to make: embrace this thrilling, dangerous world or retreat back to her mundane life, forever wondering what might have been. But in the depths of her heart, she knew which path her desires were leading her toward. As the evening progressed, the ambience in the upscale restaurant shifted dramatically. The laughter and clinking of glasses faded into a tense silence as Alina sensed a disturbance. She felt her breath quicken when she noticed a group of men entering the establishment. Their presence loomed like a storm cloud over the room, and a chill ran down her spine. The leader of the group, a rugged man with a jagged scar marring his cheek, strode towards Victor's table, exuding confidence and menace. Alina's heart raced, her instincts screaming at her to run, but she found herself rooted to her seat, caught between fear and a strange, overwhelming fascination with the man who had held her attention throughout the evening. Victor's demeanor changed instantly as he straightened in his chair, a commanding presence emerging. The casual warmth he had shown her moments ago vanished, replaced by an icy steeliness that made her pulse quicken. "You shouldn't be here," Victor replied, his voice steady, but laced with an underlying threat. The implications of his statement hung heavily in the air, like the tension that had suddenly enveloped the restaurant. Alina's stomach churned as she processed the potential danger lurking just beyond their table. The intruder leaned closer, his voice a low growl. "We have business to discuss, Petrov. Now." His tone was dripping with contempt, and it was clear that this confrontation was not going to end well. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Other diners glanced over, their expressions a mix of curiosity and fear as they strained to hear the unfolding conflict. Alina glanced at Victor, searching for any hint of how he might react. His dark eyes were locked on the scarred man, and she could see the tension in his jawline as he clenched his teeth. The moment felt electric, and despite the palpable danger, she felt an unexplainable pull towards him, a connection that was as exhilarating as it was terrifying. "I'm not interested in your games," Victor shot back, his voice firm. The authority in his tone was undeniable, and for the first time, Alina realized the extent of his power. It wasn't just physical strength. There was an air of dominance that surrounded him, a magnetism that drew her in while simultaneously warning her of the peril it brought. Alina's mind raced as she thought about the world she had inadvertently stepped into. The allure of Victor's life was intoxicating, but the reality was chilling. The Mafia world was dangerous, and she was a mere spectator, a woman caught in the crossfire of men who played for keeps. She wanted to scream at Victor to be careful, to give him a signal that she was there, but instead, she stayed silent, too enthralled to break the spell that had formed around them. Then, the tension escalated further as the scarred man advanced, invading Victor's personal space, speaking in a hushed tone that Alina couldn't quite hear but felt the weight of nonetheless. Their faces were inches apart, and she could see the muscle in Victor's jaw clenching as he fought to maintain his composure. Alina felt her heart pounding in her chest, the adrenaline coursing through her veins as she sat frozen, the world around them fading into nothingness. Suddenly, the stranger laughed, a cruel, mocking sound that echoed through the restaurant. "You think you're untouchable, don't you? But everyone has a weakness, Victor. You just haven't found yours yet." The threat was clear, and Alina felt a shiver of fear ripple through her. She glanced around the room, noticing the tension in the air thickening as people began to whisper among themselves, their eyes darting nervously between the table and the entrance as if expecting backup to arrive. Victor's eyes narrowed, and the flicker of anger within them was evident. "I suggest you leave. This isn't a place for your kind of business." He leaned forward slightly, a powerful figure in the face of an obvious threat. Alina could feel the intensity of his presence growing, and something inside her ignited, a primal sense of attraction mixed with apprehension. "What's the matter, Victor?" the man taunted, leaning closer still. "Afraid I might expose you for who you really are." His voice dripped with malice, and Alina couldn't help but wonder what secrets Victor was hiding. What kind of man was he truly? Victor's expression hardened, revealing a glimpse of the controlled rage simmering beneath the surface. The protective instinct within him was palpable, and as he faced down the man before him, Alina felt a strange sense of awe. In that moment, she realized how deeply she was drawn to him, to the complexity of his character and the darkness that surrounded him. The confrontation reached its boiling point as Victor stood, towering over the other man with an intensity that demanded respect. "You need to understand your place, and I'm not afraid to make it clear. You're out of your depth here." His voice was low, menacing, and Alina could feel the collective breath of the restaurant patrons being held as they awaited the clash. Alina's heart pounded fiercely. She realized she had crossed a line, one that separated her ordinary life from the extraordinary and dangerous world Victor inhabited. She was standing on the precipice of a choice. Would she retreat back to her mundane existence, or would she plunge headfirst into this tumultuous world? The stakes were rising, and she could feel the thrill of uncertainty coursing through her veins. If you're enjoying this story, give us a like to support the channel. The dark allure of Victor's life pulled at her heartstrings, and as the confrontation escalated, she knew she had to make a choice. She leaned closer to him, silently promising that whatever happened next, she would be there. In that moment of uncertainty, she could feel the weight of her decision pressing down on her. Would she embrace the danger, or would she turn away? The answer loomed just beyond the horizon, and her heart raced at the thought of what might come next. The atmosphere enveloping Alina and Victor was thick with tension, the remnants of their earlier confrontation still fresh in her mind. As they arrived at a secluded location away from the chaos of the restaurant, the reality of the situation began to sink in. They had narrowly escaped an altercation that could have escalated into something far more dangerous. Alina's heart raced with both fear and excitement. She had plunged into a world of peril, yet she felt undeniably drawn to the man beside her. Victor led her into a dimly lit room, the faint flicker of candlelight casting shadows on the walls. The opulence of the space was starkly contrasted by the gravity of their situation. She could see the strain etched on his face, the weight of his responsibilities pressing down on him like a heavy cloak. Feeling a rush of empathy, Alina stepped closer, her instincts urging her to reach out and comfort him. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Victor turned to her, his eyes piercing yet softening as he registered her concern. "I'm fine," he replied, though the tension in his voice told a different story. He took a deep breath, attempting to rein in the chaos swirling within him. "It's just complicated." As he spoke, Alina noticed the way his hands flexed, a sign of the power he held, but also of the burden he carried. "Complicated how?" she probed gently. She wanted him to share with her, to let her in. The intimacy of the moment felt electric, and she craved to understand the man behind the formidable facade. Victor hesitated, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his features before he steeled himself. "This life, it's not what it seems. People think it's all power and respect, but there's a price to pay." His voice dropped, revealing the weight of his words. "Every decision I make affects lives, my own and those around me. It's a responsibility that can be suffocating." Alina felt a pang of sympathy, recognizing the loneliness that often accompanies great power. She stepped closer, her desire to connect with him growing stronger. "You don't have to carry that burden alone," she said softly, her gaze steady. "I'm here, Victor." For a moment, he studied her, the flickering light dancing in his eyes as he processed her words. It was as if she had offered him a lifeline, a glimpse of solace amidst the storm. Their close proximity ignited a spark between them, a tension that was palpable and intoxicating. She could feel her heartbeat quicken, and she was acutely aware of every inch that separated them. "What you saw tonight, it's just a part of my world," he finally replied, his voice low and steady. "I've made enemies over the years, and they don't play by the same rules." There was a fierceness in his tone, a hint of the protective instinct she had witnessed earlier. Alina's heart raced at the thought of Victor facing danger. "But you're strong. You can handle it," she said, trying to instill confidence in him. "And I want to help if I can." Victor shook his head, his expression grave. "This isn't a game, Alina. You have no idea what you're asking. Being with me puts you at risk. I can't allow that to happen." His words cut through the heaviness of the moment, a stark reminder of the lines that divided their worlds. "I understand the risks," she urged, her determination rising. "But I also see how much you care. You're not just a mafia boss, you're a person. A man who wants to protect what matters." Her boldness surprised even herself, but there was no turning back now. She felt as if she was standing at the edge of an abyss, ready to leap if it meant he would trust her. Victor's brows furrowed, and he seemed to contemplate her words. "You think you understand, but you don't," he repeated, his voice thick with emotion. "The violence, the betrayals, the loss, it changes you. I've lost too much already." The raw pain in his eyes pierced her heart, and Alina felt compelled to bridge the gap between them. "Then let me in, Victor," she implored, her voice breaking slightly. "Let me be a part of your world, however dangerous it is. I can handle it, I promise." The sincerity in her tone resonated in the dimly lit room, a promise of loyalty and strength. He remained silent for a moment, and in that silence, Alina could feel the weight of the decision hanging between them. She was terrified, yet exhilarated. This was a leap into the unknown, but she couldn't ignore the pull she felt toward him. There was an undeniable chemistry that ignited every time they shared a glance, every time their bodies were close enough to create a spark. Finally, Victor sighed deeply, a tumultuous mix of resignation and resolve. "If you're going to be in this with me, you need to understand the consequences. This isn't just about us, it's about survival." His intensity flickered, revealing the well of emotion just beneath the surface. Alina nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "I'm ready," she affirmed, feeling a surge of courage. As if sealing a pact, they stepped closer together, the space between them evaporating. She reached out, her fingers brushing against his hand, an innocent gesture that carried the weight of their unspoken agreement. With their hands barely touching, Victor looked into her eyes, and for a moment, the chaos of their lives faded away. It was just the two of them, facing the shadows together. The world outside might be fraught with danger and uncertainty, but in that moment, Alina found solace. She was willing to embrace it all for him, for them. "Whatever happens from here on out, promise me you'll stay by my side," Victor said, his voice a low murmur filled with a mix of hope and fear. "I need to know you're not going to run when things get tough." "I promise," she replied, her heart swelling with conviction. I'm not going anywhere. As they stood together, the reality of the world they had both stepped into loomed large, but Alina felt a sense of empowerment surge within her. If they could weather the storm together, perhaps they could forge a path forward, one that was fraught with danger but also rich with possibilities. If you're enjoying this story, give us a like to support the channel. In that moment, a new chapter began, one filled with the complexities of love intertwined with the inescapable darkness of the life Victor led. With each passing second, she knew she would face whatever challenges lay ahead, hand in hand with the man who had unwittingly captured her heart. The journey was only just beginning, and she was ready to embrace it all. As dawn broke over the city, casting a soft, golden hue across the skyline, Alina found herself staring out the window of the safe house where Victor had taken her after the confrontation. Her mind raced with thoughts about the events of the previous night, the adrenaline, the fear, and the unexpected bond that had formed between them. Victor was in the kitchen, his silhouette framed by the light as he moved about preparing coffee. She could hear the clinking of mugs and the rustle of his clothes. He had been unusually quiet since their intensive conversation, seemingly lost in thought as he contemplated the ramifications of the threats surrounding them. Alina's heart ached for him. She recognized the toll that his life as a Mafia boss had taken on him. There was a vulnerability hidden beneath his powerful exterior, a side that he rarely showed to anyone. The reality of his world clashed with her own, and yet she felt an undeniable pull toward him, a connection that transcended the danger they faced. "Are you all right?" she finally asked, breaking the silence that enveloped them. Victor turned, his brow furrowing as he caught her gaze. "I'm fine," he replied, though the slight tremor in his voice suggested otherwise. "Just thinking about the implications of everything that happened. I can't let anyone get too close to my world." Alina stepped closer, her resolve strengthening. "But I want to be close to you. I want to understand what you're going through. You've faced so much, and she hesitated, searching for the right words. "I want to help." Victor sighed, rubbing his temples as if the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. "This isn't a game, Alina. You don't know what you're asking for. The people I deal with, they don't play by the same rules you're used to." "Maybe not," she countered, her voice firm. "But that doesn't mean I'm willing to turn my back on you. I see the man behind the boss, Victor. You're so much more than the life you've led." He looked at her, a flicker of something, hope, passing through his eyes. "You're brave. I admire that, but bravery is dangerous in my world. It can get you killed. I'd rather face danger by your side than live in fear of it," she declared, her chest tightening with the weight of her conviction. "You've shown me a side of life I never knew existed. I refuse to walk away now." Victor studied her for a long moment, the tension between them palpable. "You have no idea how complicated this is," he murmured. "You could be drawn into a web of chaos, and I wouldn't be able to protect you. If you don't let me in, how can we ever find a way through this?" Her voice was softer now, an invitation rather than a challenge. "We need to work together. If we're going to face the dangers ahead, we'll need each other." The room fell silent as Victor weighed her words. The bond they shared had already been forged in fire. The risks and challenges were real, but so were their feelings. He stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "You're right. If we're going to do this, we need to be open with each other. I can't hide anymore." "Then let's face it together," she encouraged, reaching out to take his hand. "Whatever comes our way, we tackle it as a team." "I want to be part of your world, Victor, no matter how messy it might get." He squeezed her hand lightly, his expression softening. "You're unlike anyone I've ever met. I don't want to hurt you, but I can't promise you safety. The world I live in is ruthless." With a nod, she replied, "I understand, but that doesn't mean I'm going to shy away from it. I want to be there for you, and you need to let me." Their eyes locked in a moment of understanding, the promise of solidarity hanging between them like a fragile thread. The stakes were high, but the connection they forged was undeniable. The weight of their circumstances seemed to lift, if only slightly, as they faced this challenge together. As the sun rose higher, illuminating the room, Alina's heart surged with determination. "You've been strong for so long, Victor. Let me be your strength now." He drew her closer, enveloping her in a protective embrace. The warmth of his body against hers provided a sense of security, a safe harbor amidst the storm. "Together," he whispered into her hair, each word resonating with promise. It was a powerful reminder of the bond they were beginning to forge, one that only deepened with each passing moment. "Whatever happens from now on, I need you to promise that you'll trust me." "I promise," she replied, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "And I need you to trust me too." Victor stepped back to look into her eyes, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his majestic features. "I will. But know this, the path ahead is fraught with danger, and it's likely to test us in unimaginable ways." "I'm ready to face it all," she declared fiercely. "We'll navigate through it, I believe in us." As they stood together in that moment, Alina felt a shift within her. The weight of the world was still there, but now it was shared. They were not just two individuals crossing paths. They were partners in a dance that was both thrilling and terrifying. If you're enjoying this story, give us a like to support the channel. Together, they were embarking on a journey into the unknown, determined to face whatever challenges their intertwined fates had in store. The future was uncertain, but there was an undeniable sense of hope and resilience in the air. They were ready to confront whatever would come next, together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the cityscape, Alina and Victor stood together in the aftermath of their tumultuous journey. They had faced danger, betrayal, and a world neither of them had anticipated. Yet through it all, their connection had deepened in ways they never thought possible. The storm brewing outside mirrored the whirlwind of emotions swirling within them, but there was a newfound strength in their unity. Sitting on the balcony of a luxury penthouse that Victor had secured for their safety, Alina gazed out at the city lights twinkling below. The world was vast and sprawling, but her focus was singular: Victor. He stood beside her, his silhouette strong against the fading light. She could feel the tension in the air, not from fear, but from the electric charge of unresolved feelings and the weight of their decisions. The silence between them spoke volumes. After everything they had been through, words felt unnecessary, but Alina knew that they needed to articulate their hopes for the future. "Victor, I know things won't be easy," she began, her voice steady. "The Mafia world is dangerous and unforgiving, but I want to be part of it with you. We are stronger together." Victor turned to her, his expression softening. "You have no idea what you're asking for, Alina. My world is filled with shadows and darkness. It's ruthless. People don't just leave it behind easily." "I'm not naive," she replied, her gaze unwavering. "I understand the risks, but I've seen the man behind the Bratva boss. You have a heart, Victor. You care, and that's something rare in your world." For a moment, Victor remained silent, the weight of her words hanging heavily between them. Then he reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers with a tenderness that belied his fierce exterior. "It's dangerous for you to be here. If anyone finds out about us—" "Then let them find out," she interrupted, her voice firm. "I won't hide anymore. I refuse to let fear dictate my life, especially when I have something worth fighting for." His brow furrowed as he processed her determination. "You're brave, Alina, but bravery can lead to recklessness." "Maybe," she conceded, "but I'd rather face recklessness than live a life of regrets. I want to know what it means to stand by you, to face whatever comes our way, side by side." A small smile tugged at the corners of Victor's lips, a mixture of admiration and disbelief. "You truly are unlike anyone I've ever met. Most would run from my life, but you want to embrace it." "I want to embrace you," she said softly, squeezing his hand. "I believe in us, Victor, and I believe that together we can carve out a different future, even in the chaos." Their eyes locked, the gravity of their shared promise grounding them in that moment. The walls of the penthouse felt less like barriers and more like a sanctuary as they made their unspoken vow to protect each other. "If we're going to do this, we need to trust each other completely," Victor said, his tone serious yet filled with a hint of warmth. "You need to know that my world comes with its own set of rules, and I can't always shield you from that." "I understand," Alina replied, her voice unwavering. "But I also need you to trust that I can handle it. I'm not afraid of the dangers. We'll face them together, remember?" Victor nodded, an intensity in his gaze that sent shivers down her spine. "Together," he echoed, as if the word itself bound them, intertwining their fates inextricably. Alina took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their choices settling upon her shoulders. Whatever happens, I'm here to stay. I want to be a part of your life, even if it means navigating through the darkness. He stepped closer, their faces just inches apart. And I will do everything in my power to keep you safe. I won't let anything happen to you if I can help it. As they stood on the brink of a new chapter, the reality of their situation loomed large. The shadows of the past were still present, and the future was uncertain, but they were ready to confront it together. Victor leaned in, brushing his lips against hers, igniting a spark that had been waiting to ignite since the moment they had met. The kiss deepened, filled with the weight of their promises and the thrill of newfound hope. It was a kiss that spoke of loyalty, love, and the fierce determination to forge their own path in a world designed to tear them apart. In that moment, nothing else mattered. The dangers faded into the background, the uncertainty morphed into a challenge they were willing to face. They were no longer just a Bratva boss and an ordinary woman. They were partners, united in their fight against both the world outside and the fears within. As they pulled back, both breathless and smiling, Alina knew that no matter what lay ahead, they would tackle it together. "You know," she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief, "for a notorious mob boss, you're not so bad." Victor chuckled, the sound rich and warm. "And for an ordinary woman, you have an extraordinary amount of courage." They stood there for a moment, letting the reality of their situation settle in. The sun had set completely, leaving the city cloaked in darkness, yet it felt like a new dawn was breaking for them. Together, they were ready to face whatever challenges would come their way, knowing they had each other to rely on. You know, if you're enjoying this thrilling story, don't forget to subscribe for more. They were both nervous about the path ahead, but they also felt a flicker of excitement. From this point on, they would be unstoppable, a fierce couple ready to take on the world, hand in hand.